Before light existed, before shape or name, there was only stillness. Not death, not emptiness. Just the endless waiting of a universe that had not yet realized it could move. Then, somewhere in that vast quiet, the first tremor began, a vibration so small it could not be seen, only felt. And from that invisible pulse, everything we know was born. Humanity has always sensed that sound was there at the beginning. Long before telescopes or equations, people felt that the world did not start with an explosion, but with a tone, a note carried through eternity. Every culture gave it a different name, but the story remained the same. Creation began with a voice. In the temples of ancient Egypt, priests spoke of Ptah, the craftsman of existence. They said he built the world not with tools, but with speech. His tongue was the hammer. His words were stone and breath. When Ptah uttered the secret names of things, mountains rose and rivers found their course. For the Egyptians, sound was not decoration, it was architecture. Far to the east, the sages of India whispered a similar mystery. They called it Nada Brahma. The universe is sound. According to the Vedic hymns, before any god could think or act, there was vibration. Om. That syllable was not a word, but a frequency, the heartbeat of reality. Everything that followed, fire, wind, the mind itself, was the echo of that first resonance. In the icy north, the poets of the Norse world told of the divine inspiration that moved gods and humans alike. For them, the universe was not created once, but constantly sung into motion. Each breath of Odin, each whisper of wind across the fjords, renewed the world's song. Silence, in their view, was only a pause between verses. Across oceans, other peoples were telling their own versions. The Maya believed that the creators shaped the earth through words spoken in the dark waters. The Maori said that the gods chanted until light broke open the sky. Even the Navajos saw life as a melody. To heal was to remember the right rhythm. Everywhere humans listened, they found the same truth. Sound was older than language, older than thought, perhaps older than time. For modern ears, these may sound like myths, but they carry an intuition our ancestors could feel even without instruments. They lived surrounded by vibration. The rumble of thunder, the hum of insects, the beating of their own hearts. To them, sound was proof that the world was alive, that the unseen could move the seen. In sacred spaces, this belief became ritual. The first temples were tuned like instruments. Walls curved not for beauty, but for resonance. Priests sang not to entertain the gods, but to recreate the moment of creation itself, to keep the universe vibrating in harmony. If the chants stopped, they feared the silence would return, and the world might fall still again. Thousands of years later, science began to give those intuitions a new language. Physicists discovered that nothing truly rests. Even the hardest stone, the quietest void, trembles on a microscopic scale. Matter, they learned, is energy condensed, vibration slowed enough to appear solid. Einstein's equations hinted at what the ancients had sung. Everything is movement, and movement is sound. Yet sound is more than physics. It is the bridge between the visible and the invisible. When you strike a drum, air vibrates, but something deeper happens. Form becomes experience. In that instant, motion turns into emotion. That conversion, energy into meaning, is the oldest magic we know. Imagine the earliest human who discovered their voice. Perhaps it was a cry across a valley, a warning, a song. In that moment, they realized that sound could shape other minds, that a vibration in the throat could change reality. From there, language began, religion followed, and myth gave the invisible a name. Even silence is never truly silent. Inside it, the body hums, blood pulsing, atoms spinning, heart beating. The ancients heard this inner music and called it the soul. Modern machines now record it as frequency. Different vocabularies, same perception. Life itself is vibration. The first breath of the universe has never stopped. It expanded into galaxies, condensed into suns, and finally echoed in us. When you speak, you are repeating that primordial act, turning silence into existence. Every whisper, every note, is a reminder that we are fragments of that ancient resonance, still vibrating, still unfolding. Somewhere between science and myth, between sound and thought, lies the same revelation. The world began not with light, but with the courage of silence to make a sound. Every civilization tried to explain what lies behind the rhythm of life, that invisible pulse guiding rivers, stars, and breath. For some, it was a god's voice. For others, it was the heartbeat of nature itself. Yet the deeper you listen, the more their stories begin to sound like variations of one long cosmic song. In ancient Mesopotamia, the story began with chaos. Two primordial waters, Apsu and Tiamat, swirling endlessly in the dark. When their silence broke, creation unfolded through vibration. It was not sculpted or spoken in words, but thundered into form. Marduk, the storm god, used his voice as a weapon. His roar divided heaven and earth. To the Babylonians, that roar was sacred order. The universe stabilized through sound. The same idea echoed in the Hebrew scriptures, though softened into poetry. There the divine command replaced thunder, and God said. Sound became intention. The Hebrew daber, meaning both word and thing, implied that to speak was to create substance itself. Every phrase carried weight. Every breath shaped reality. When the psalmist wrote, "The heavens declare the glory of God," it was not metaphor. It was physics, spoken in faith's language. The Greeks turned this divine act into philosophy. Pythagoras listened not to gods, but to strings and stars. He found that the same ratios governing harmony in music also described the distances between planets. For him, the cosmos was not silent. It was a lyre strummed by divine geometry. He called it the music of the spheres, a harmony too perfect for human ears. Plato later imagined that souls remembered these harmonies from before birth. To live in tune with virtue was to remember that cosmic rhythm. And when early Christians adopted the word logos, divine reason, the creative word, they fused philosophy with faith. The universe was no longer distant. It spoke through logic, order, and consciousness itself. Meanwhile, in India, priests still chanted the Vedas, keeping alive the idea that creation was ongoing. Every mantra was a recalibration, a way of aligning body and cosmos through vibration. To chant Om was to echo the original breath of the universe. Each repetition was a reminder that existence vibrates, not metaphorically, but literally. Far across oceans, indigenous peoples held onto the same truth. The Navajo told of holy people who sang the world into balance. In their view, illness was dissonance, a loss of one's personal song. Healing came through melody, restoring the forgotten tone of being. The Hawaiian Kumalipo told a similar tale, a chant that unfolded creation verse by verse, transforming darkness into coral, coral into fish, fish into man. The world was a hymn without end. The Aboriginal Australians preserved perhaps the purest form of this idea. Their songlines were not legends but living maps. Each mountain, tree, and stream corresponded to a note in the great melody of the dreaming. To walk the land and sing its song was to sustain reality itself. If the song stopped, they believed, the world would fade back into silence. Science, centuries later, would prove them half right and entirely poetic. Astronomers discovered that the universe does, in fact, carry sound. Not in the way our ears understand it, but as pressure waves through cosmic gas. The early universe, fresh from its expansion, was filled with oscillations, literal vibrations that left their mark on the cosmic microwave background. In a sense, creation really did begin with a hum. If you could translate those primordial frequencies into audible notes, they would form a deep B-flat, 57 octaves below middle C, a tone no human could ever hear but one that shaped galaxies. Stars and planets condensed along those wave crests. Every atom in your body traces its ancestry back to those first vibrations. We are the resonance of ancient sound. Even now, sound defines existence on every scale. On Earth, seismic waves shape continents. In the ocean, whales communicate across entire basins through infrasound. Inside your own body, the pulse of the heart synchronizes with brain waves in quiet cycles of coherence. From macro to micro, life organizes itself around rhythm. The ancients felt it intuitively. When they sang to mountains, beat drums to summon rain, or prayed aloud, they weren't performing rituals. They were tuning the air. And tuning themselves. They understood that intention travels through vibration, That emotion colors sound, that sound changes matter. Today, science calls this cymatics. When a tone passes through sand or water, it forms patterns, circles, spirals, and lattices that resemble sacred art carved thousands of years ago. Change the frequency and the pattern changes. Matter dances to music. This was the truth priests guarded and physicists rediscovered. The universe is self-organizing sound. Perhaps this is why humans are drawn to rhythm. Why drumming, chanting, or even the heartbeat of another person can calm the nervous system. On a cellular level, we remember. Our atoms were once part of that first chord. Every note, every whisper, every heartbeat is a rephrasing of creation. Across myth and science, faith and reason, the story repeats. There was silence, then sound, and sound became everything. The divine echo still moves through galaxies, through oceans, through us. It's not a metaphor, but a lineage, a memory written in frequency. And somewhere between the physics of vibration and the poetry of belief, the same truth endures. The universe is not observed, it is heard. When something is too vast to describe, humans draw it. We turn mystery into symbol, an image to hold the invisible. That's what our ancestors did with sound. They tried to give shape to what could only be felt, and the result became the language of sacred geometry, art, and music, a visual echo of vibration itself. Long before anyone understood frequency, people saw its signature in nature. The spiral of a shell, the rings of a tree, the ripple of a raindrop in still water. Each was a reminder that form follows rhythm. They weren't random, they were the frozen moments of sound. To the ancients, this wasn't metaphor. It was revelation, a glimpse of how the unseen structured the scene. The spiral was among the first and most enduring symbols. It appeared on stones from Newgrange in Ireland to temple walls in Peru. For the Celts, it represented the breath of life, the journey outward and inward. For the Maori, the unfurling fern, the koru, mirrored the same pattern. Growth, balance, and return. Every culture recognized that the spiral moved like vibration, outward yet centered, expanding while remembering where it began. Then came the circle, perfect, endless, without edges. In Egypt, the Ankh joined the circle to the cross of life, a loop of eternal breath. In India, the mandala layered circles into infinity, each ring a dimension of being. To meditate on it was to move through frequencies, to travel inward through soundless sound. In the East, monks painted mandalas with grains of colored sand, spending days creating patterns they would later sweep away. It wasn't destruction, it was demonstration. Like sound, beauty existed only in the moment of vibration. When the tone fades, the shape dissolves. Everything is transient, yet endlessly repeated. The Greeks found the same harmony in mathematics. Pythagoras' lyre taught them that certain ratios, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, created consonants. They called these proportions the intervals of the soul. They discovered that numbers could sing and that harmony was measurable order. From that realization came an entire worldview, that the cosmos itself was built on numerical music. When later builders raised cathedrals, they followed that logic unconsciously. The arches of Chartres, the domes of Florence, the stained glass of Notre Dame, each structure vibrates with hidden harmonics. They were designed for chant, not speech. Sound would rise, bounce, and blend, turning stone into resonance. A single choir could make walls tremble like living skin. Architecture became frozen vibration, geometry arranged to sing. In Asia, vibration turned inward. Mantras were designed not for meaning, but for resonance. Each syllable corresponded to a region of the body, a nerve, a breath. When recited correctly, the body became a resonating chamber. Sound wasn't external anymore. It was anatomy, consciousness, alignment. The Sanskrit letter Om became the visual emblem of this awareness. Its curves represented waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Its dot, the state beyond. It was both symbol and sound, the blueprint of all vibration in one glyph. To chant Om was to remember the source. In the Andes, the Inca carved sound into stone. Their temples were built to amplify echoes, to merge voice with wind. The conch shell, the Pututu, called not people, but elements. Its spiral mimicked the universe's breath, from center to horizon. When they played it, they believed they were harmonizing with the sun itself. In Africa, drumming became a conversation with creation. The Yoruba spoke of A with grave, the divine power that animates the universe. To speak with rhythm was to activate that power. Each drumbeat carried intention, emotion, command. Through tone and pulse, the invisible became tangible. Even silence took on meaning. In Taoist philosophy, the Tao could not be spoken, because any sound would limit it. They said, "Great sound is rarefied sound." True vibration transcended hearing. Silence was not emptiness but fullness, the womb of sound. It was the pause that allows music to exist. Everywhere, the same idea unfolded. The world was a tapestry woven from vibration, and humans were its instruments. When a monk rang a bell, when a mother sang to her child, when an artisan carved spirals into clay, each act mirrored the pulse of creation. Today, science has caught up with what symbols once tried to explain. Cymatics, the study of visible sound, shows that vibration arranges matter into geometric forms. On a metal plate sprinkled with sand, tones generate patterns identical to mandalas and temple carvings. A change in pitch reshapes the design, proving visually what the ancients felt intuitively. Sound organizes chaos into beauty. These forms repeat everywhere. In snowflakes, in flowers, in galaxies. Each follows the same rhythm of expansion, repetition, and return. It is as if the universe itself keeps time with one continuous song. Even our alphabet carries echoes of those shapes. Letters curve and spiral, remnants of early pictographs that described movement and breath. Words, at their root, are still symbols of vibration, visible frequency. Perhaps that is why sacred art, music, and language always overlap. They come from the same urge, to make the unseen visible, to give sound a body. When we paint, sing, or pray, we are not imitating creation. We are continuing it. The ancients didn't separate art from science, or spirit from geometry. They saw the pattern behind all of them, the symmetry that makes harmony possible. Every drumbeat, every note of a lyre, every sacred carving was a sentence in the same cosmic language. That language has no translation. It can only be experienced. When we listen, truly listen, we can still hear it. The low hum beneath everything, the sound that holds the stars in place. Symbols, patterns, and sounds. All of them say the same thing. The universe speaks, not in words, but in rhythm. And to understand it, we don't need to read. We only need to resonate. When you step inside an ancient temple, you can feel it before you hear it. That low, invisible hum carried through the stone. It isn't imagination. Those chambers were built as instruments. Every curve, every arch, was tuned to amplify the human voice and reflect it back in waves. The sound didn't just fill the room, it made the walls breathe. Even today, sound engineers marvel at how perfectly those structures captured resonance without any modern tools. What the builders couldn't measure, they intuited. They knew that vibration could purify the mind, that tone could alter emotion, that frequency could move matter. To them, architecture wasn't shelter. It was an echo chamber of divinity. The same principle lies at the heart of the universe. Science now tells us that everything we see is a symphony of motion. Tiny oscillations repeating endlessly. Atoms are not solid particles, but patterns of energy vibrating at precise rates. Change the frequency and you change the form. That's how matter itself is born. In the smallest scales, creation still sings. Quantum physics took this ancient intuition and gave it vocabulary. What mystics once called the sacred sound, scientists describe as wave-particle duality. An electron isn't one thing or another. It's a vibration that becomes visible only when observed. Observation, like listening, collapses potential into being. The act of awareness itself might be the modern version of the ancient chant. Physicists studying string theory went even further. They proposed that all particles, everything from light to gravity, are actually tiny vibrating strings. Each string's frequency determines what it becomes. Matter, energy, space, and time. All of it, in the end, is music. The universe doesn't just produce sound. It is sound. Listen closely to the cosmos, and you'll find evidence everywhere. Astronomers have recorded the song of black holes. Deep bass tones lasting billions of years. They've mapped sound waves rippling through nebulae, through clusters of galaxies, through the background radiation of the Big Bang. Each pulse marks a moment when the universe tuned itself. We are still living in the afterglow of that original rhythm. And inside the human body, the same symphony continues. The heart doesn't beat randomly. It entrains itself to rhythm. Brain waves synchronize with breathing. Cells vibrate in harmony with their surroundings. Even DNA, when stretched and observed under certain frequencies, responds like a resonating string. Life listens to itself. Medical science is beginning to rediscover what ancient healers knew instinctively. That vibration can restore order. Sound therapy, ultrasound, and electromagnetic resonance are modern versions of the same idea, that tone shapes matter and affects mind. A Tibetan bowl and a medical scanner operate on the same law. Frequency influences form. One calms the spirit. The other rebuilds the body. Both sing to structure. Artists and musicians have always felt this connection. When an orchestra plays, the air itself becomes geometry. When a singer reaches perfect pitch, glasses vibrate, hearts race, tears rise. Emotion is the language of resonance. Proof that vibration doesn't stop at the ear. It moves through muscle, memory, soul. Maybe that's why certain places, caves, cathedrals, canyons, feel sacred. Their acoustics align with something deep in us. In those moments, science and spirituality overlap completely. You don't need to believe in gods to feel awe. The sound itself is enough. It carries the same weight the ancients heard in their chants, the reminder that existence is alive. And perhaps consciousness itself is the greatest resonance of all. Neuroscientists studying brain activity describe thought as synchronized waves, oscillations linking billions of neurons in rhythm. When those patterns fall into harmony, we experience clarity, focus, peace. When they break apart, we feel anxiety, confusion, pain. Our inner world, like the outer, depends on coherence. Every breath, every heartbeat, every spark of awareness is a wave passing through the fabric of spacetime. You are a pattern of frequencies, temporarily shaped into human form. When your body ends, the vibration continues. Transformed, not erased. That's what myths meant by immortality. Not survival of the body, but persistence of resonance. It's tempting to see all this as coincidence, the overlap of poetry and physics. But maybe it isn't coincidence at all. Maybe those early civilizations didn't invent metaphors. Maybe they heard something real. A whisper beneath the noise of life, a hum behind thunder, a pulse beneath the heart. They named it God. We call it energy. But both describe the same phenomenon. The world as vibration, awareness as its listener. Even the word universe carries that memory. In Latin, uni means one, and versus means to turn. One turning, one rhythm, one motion. To live inside it is to participate in its music. We don't stand apart from it. We are the notes, constantly playing and fading and reforming. The echo of creation has never gone silent. It's in the murmur of the sea, the hum of wires, the chant of breath in meditation. It's in the soundless tremor of the atom and the roaring waves of the cosmos. It's what connects us to everything that has ever existed. And if you pause long enough, not to speak but to listen, you can almost hear it. A sound without beginning or end. The voice that spoke the universe into being, still speaking through everything that vibrates, including you. Some truths don't age. They simply change language. The ancients sang them, we calculate them. But the melody is the same. The world still moves to rhythm. We are still made of vibration. And deep down, we still crave harmony. Sound has always been more than a phenomenon. It's the invisible thread that ties memory to matter, breath to being. When you whisper a word, its vibration doesn't vanish. It travels, fading into smaller waves, but never truly disappearing. Somewhere, in the endless resonance of space, every sound ever made still exists, stretching outward like ripples in an eternal pond. The universe is a vast recording of everything that has ever spoken, sung, or breathed. This isn't just poetry. Astrophysicists have confirmed that energy, once released, doesn't die, it transforms. And sound is energy. That means every heartbeat, every lullaby, every thunderclap is still out there, folded into the cosmic background, woven into the static of starlight. We live surrounded by the ghosts of our own music. It's a comforting thought that silence is never truly silent. Even when you think the world is still, atoms tremble, planets hum, galaxies drift through resonance. The same vibration that formed matter continues in everything alive. The air you breathe carries echoes from the beginning of time. Every inhalation is communion with the first breath of creation. In temples and observatories, in cathedrals and laboratories, humans have always sought the same moment, the instant when vibration becomes understanding. Some call it enlightenment. Others call it discovery. But it is the same event, the mind tuning itself to the frequency of truth. That's why the ancients listened. They didn't just want to hear the gods, they wanted to align with them. To be in tune with creation meant to be in balance with all things. When they sang or chanted, they weren't asking for miracles. They were participating in the act of keeping the universe alive. Their songs weren't prayers, they were maintenance. Each tone was a reminder, we are still here. The world still moves. We may not live in temples anymore, but the principle remains. Every act of kindness, every breath of calm, every rhythm of compassion is a frequency added to the collective harmony. When we live in anger or fear, we create dissonance, interference in the shared vibration. When we speak with love, we strengthen coherence. The world listens, even if we can't always hear the reply. Modern technology, ironically, has brought us back to this ancient realization. Microphones, sensors, and quantum instruments reveal what our ancestors only intuited, that reality responds to energy. Words carry measurable force. Sound waves can heal or harm, structure water or shatter glass, synchronize hearts or scatter crowds. The same vibration that forms galaxies can also reshape emotion. If the universe began with sound, then maybe consciousness is its echo, the awareness of being part of that great unfolding. We are not outside creation looking in. We are the continuation of that first note, still reverberating through time. To speak, to sing, even to breathe, is to keep the universe expanding. The ancients would have called that act sacred. Not because it belongs to religion, but because it belongs to everything. To live is to vibrate, to participate in the great resonance of existence. Every heartbeat says, the sound is still here. Close your eyes. Imagine the silence before time began. Now imagine the smallest vibration rippling through it. Soft, golden, almost imperceptible. That's how everything started. And that's how everything continues. The sacred sound never stopped. It simply changed instruments. Now it speaks through the rustle of leaves, the rhythm of footsteps, the breath between two people who understand each other without words. It speaks through you. Maybe that's the final message hidden in every myth, every chant, every formula. The gods never shouted across the void. They whispered through resonance. The universe doesn't demand worship. It asks for attention. And if you listen closely enough, beyond the noise of the world, beyond thought, beyond language, you might just hear it again. The first breath. The ancient vibration. The sound that made silence remember its own name.